There's like a video of me, hopefully it doesn't exist anymore, of a blackout on Thanksgiving where I, at his mother's house, removed my clothing, and I mean, it's horrible. And the next day I had no memory of it, and they asked if I wanted to see the video, and I didn't. And his mom told me. The next day I woke up, I had pissed myself, and I had no idea what's up, what's for breakfast? And they were like, are you kidding me right now?
Green lights and blue skies are on their way. Yeah, they're on their way.
Hi everyone, my name is Irini and I'm coming to you here from South Florida. We're Crosstalk, the #1 recovery podcast for learning about people who have recovered and giving hope to people who may need it. And today I have an amazing guest. I've known her for a few years and she's one of my great friends. Her name is Keri, and Keri's here to tell you a little bit about her story and how she's living today in happy harmony, right?
That's right. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. Tell me a little bit about how you grew up.
So I grew up around the Washington, D.C. area. 2 parents, a brother, loving family. But I do believe from the bottom of my heart, I was born an alcoholic. I believe it because from as early as I can remember, I would lie to people about who I was and change my story. I was extremely clingy. I had huge separation anxiety from my mom. I couldn't do regular things that kids were doing. And I've always been a vicious liar. Like the most glaring thing that comes to mind is when I was 7, my parents split up.
Yeah.
And I would lie to people about it. And I would lie to my friends' parents about it, even though they knew. I was so ashamed of it. And just things like that. I would get anxiety when a member of my family went into my room in case they would find something out about me.
Right.
And I know a lot of people, when they talk about, being born an alcoholic, talk about being a liar. I really think I was clinically, pathologically a liar.
I mean, I think that all of us have some sort of like denial, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how everything started when you started, using drugs and alcohol. Like what happened? Like what was the moment?
So I started becoming like a knucklehead, sort of rebellious in middle school. And then it quickly got like dangerous and scary. Sneaking out of my house, hanging out with older boys. Another part of the whole dishonest thing is that if I didn't have like approval from peers and men later, or boys at this age, I had no self-worth. So it was whatever they were doing, smoking cigarettes, smoking a lot of weed, and then getting caught. So
did you have any consequences?
Well, in hindsight, it was relatively a soft landing, but yes, I had to leave my school. I got sent to a boarding school.
Oh, wow, okay.
The boarding school introduced me to the 12 steps, although there was some other stuff with it. It ended up getting shut down.
Wait, how old were you then?
14.
Oh,
My
wow.
freshman year of high school. I went for a year and a half.
Okay.
Until the school got shut down by the Office of Child Care Services. It was one of those.
Okay.
Nobody had licenses. They were giving us meds.
Different
They were
time.
using restraints. Anyway, and I was like, oh, I'm an addict. Cool. So I got out of there and I started going to a private school back in DC, and I did really well there. And little by slowly, I went back to like a boyfriend, only he was 23 and I was 16.
Okay.
And we started drinking.
Yeah.
And actually, funnily enough, I met him in a young person's AA meeting I went to because I got out of this school and I was like, I'm going to be in recovery. Anyway. And I can tell you, so I was about 17 years old when I had that drink, and I didn't throw it up, because when I was younger, I would just throw up every time, and I low-key hated drinking and would avoid it.
Right.
I had that moment everyone describes where I had arrived. I had found the solution. All the stuff I was fighting so hard to keep hidden, all the emotional crap I couldn't regulate, I had arrived.
It was like your coping mechanism.
I mean, I couldn't believe not everyone was drinking all day, every day. It was amazing. So within a year, I had blacked out. I had been accepted to college in North Carolina and was arrested 2 or 3 times and kicked out. And I got a DUI, my first DUI.
Okay.
So we're talking low functioning drunk from the jump. And you asked about consequences, like every time I had to deal with a very upset, very disappointed mother, but like I had a lawyer.
Right, of course.
I didn't make enough money for a lawyer. I had a roof over my head. So,
So you were being enabled, a little saved.
100%.
Right.
100%.
I can relate.
And, by the time I was 23 and several jobs later that I'd lost so many jobs in my 20s to no call, no show, due to hangovers, things like that. I was like a full-blown physically addicted alcoholic, shakes in the morning, start drinking as soon as I got to work.
And this is what age?
23.
Okay.
And it all came to a head. My family had stopped drinking with me, mostly because there was like a trip to New York to visit my brother. And then I would always kind of spin it on this mental health thing, which is definitely there, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it wasn't really alcohol was my problem. And I ended up going to like a psychiatric place, right? And while I was there, I had managed to get all this booze and they caught me, right?
How did you?
Because it was an open situation.
I see. Doors open.
And they found it. They found empty bottles, like 2 trash bags full, right? Couple weeks in. And that's when I went to my first rehab, 23 years old.
Okay. Where was it?
That was in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay.
So I do that, and I remember just being this miserable. I mean, it was fun. Like for the first time in that, like, I guess I did 60 days there. I wasn't like looking for a man or anything like that, which was great, but I was also not, my heart wasn't in it at all. And I came home and I stayed sober a couple weeks, met a guy, moved out of my parents, and quickly started blackout drinking again. I think we had multiple eviction notices, things like that. And I was a very violent drinker. And, I'm the woman. So when we would fight, and I'm talking about fight, I was always able to be the victim because I always ended up a little more visibly hurt. But I was an abuser myself.
Right.
I mean, we would fight.
Well, I had a similar thing. And it's just toxic. When 2 people are on drugs, there's no, your frontal lobe is like, forget it. Everything is like bad.
Yeah. Yes. And actually, one of the biggest points of like changing my life now was getting rid of that victim mentality and accepting like I was a horrible, abusive person.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, me too.
Doesn't mean what happened to me was okay, but I was.
Yeah.
And that's that.
And I think it's more like we were toxic. You know what I mean? Because we're not there. Like we're filling our body with these substances, and we're completely like another person. We black out. We do things that aren't okay, and then when you come to and you are not drinking, you're like, what did I do?
Right.
I can't do this again.
And to give you like a snapshot of that period, I guess I was 24, 25. I was paying for gasoline with coins, to try and get to work, and barely holding on to a job, and then spending all my money on alcohol.
So at this point, are you doing any other drugs?
I mean, not hard drugs. If there was money, I suppose I'd smoke some weed.
Right, okay.
But I was drinking really bad. So fast forward to I'm 26 years old. Me and him are on the outs. I'm drinking at a bar with a friend, and I'm waiting for the bus to go home, and I meet the man who I will eventually marry in secret and have 2 children with, not in secret. That's harder to hide. And it is the same exact pattern. You have 2 addicts together. I am emotionally unstable. I am a frightful blackout drunk. I have been kicked out of his family's home for embarrassing them and myself. And then I get pregnant quickly. And I do kind of get it together. Like I do. I sort of stopped drinking. I did drink a little wine here and there, but I got it together, and there it is. There's your proof. I'm not an alcoholic.
Right, of course.
Let me tell you, in the hospital room after I gave birth, I had my brother-in-law bring me 2 bottles of booze, and I was drinking champagne. It was New Year's. It's fine.
Obviously.
I was drinking champagne with the ice chips in a hospital cup, watching the ball drop.
Oh my God.
Still recovering from a C-section. Okay? Breastfeeding. Okay? That's a problem.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
So then we get the assault charge. We got in a fight. I was in a blackout. I get another DUI with my baby in the car. It's just consequence after consequence. I'm going back to school to be a teacher. What a joke. It took me it was a 2-year program. It took me 3.
That's not so bad, actually.
Actually, it's not. It's not.
It's not so bad.
I am proud of that, actually, that I did school.
Yeah, you did it.
But, just a joke. I mean, I'm barely getting by, and I do have my drinking under control. We have another child.
Yeah.
Once all my charges and everything are cleared up. And then when he's 2, he's 4 now.
Who?
My son.
Okay. So wait, quick question. At this point, are you and your husband fighting a lot?
Oh,
and
yes.
It's toxic.
Oh, yes. And here's the thing about me. This man, and I'm not here to bash him.
Right.
Because I take full responsibility.
Yeah.
I probably caught him cheating in some capacity 12 times that I know of.
Right.
And I just clung on to him harder. Okay, he could not do a thing to make me break. And I don't know if it goes back to that stuff I was talking about with my own family, my own parents' marriage breaking up or what, but I would have gone to the depths of hell
For him.
And to just have a nuclear family.
How were your parents, and I've heard that a lot from others actually, but how did your parents feel about him? Were they telling you hey, this is not good?
Yes.
Yeah.
But eventually, I had 2 children with him.
Right.
We sneakily got married because they liked him. They had accepted him. He came over for Christmas and family dinners.
Yeah.
They understood that he was my partner, but I still couldn't tell him I married him,
Right.
So I did that on the sneak, like everything else in my life, hidden, right? And, we started, and I didn't tell you this, but I do think I had an Adderall addiction in my 20s too. I had a prescription that I would go through in maybe a week or 2, and then I would have to sleep for 2 weeks till I could refill it.
I can definitely
I know you
relate.
know. I know you know.
That was my
So that
nature.
was part of it too, and I would, I needed a lot of booze to come down from that. So it's almost a haze. I can't even remember that period of my life, but it was there. It was there.
Yeah.
And so we started, slipping back into that. My drinking was sort of under control, but when I did drink, I would black out. There's a video of me, hopefully it doesn't exist anymore, of a blackout on Thanksgiving where I, at his mother's house, removed my clothing, and I mean, it's horrible. And the next day I had no memory of it, and they asked if I wanted to see the video, and I didn't. And his mom told me. And you know, the next day I woke up, I had pissed myself, and I had no idea. I was like, what's up? What's for breakfast? You know? And they were like, are you kidding me right now?
Right.
So that's, you know, when I did drink, that's how it was. And I don't need to get into all the details, but the very last leg of my active addiction was smoking fentanyl.
Yeah.
And that took me down so fast.
How were you introduced to fentanyl?
My husband.
Okay.
So he actually left us for a few months when things just came to a explosive point. And I took him back 4 months later, and he was smoking these little blue things on tin foil, and I judged him and didn't touch it for about a week, and then eventually I did. And I got hooked so fast. All my money went to that. Within a month, if I went 4 hours without it, I was in physical withdrawal.
So did you ever have like an overdose or anything?
No.
Because fentanyl is like,
I honestly, and I don't want to spread any misinformation, but everyone around me was overdosing. And I think it's because I only smoked it. It's just a little harder. It's still very possible.
Yeah.
But it's just slightly harder than if you're snorting it or injecting it.
Got it.
And that's like, you know, one of the things that I look back on now and realize like I should be dead.
Oh, yeah.
I need to do something purposeful moving forward because I have been given a chance, you know? And not even a second one, like.
And that's why I love this podcast, right? Because we're sharing that hope and the fact that like, yeah, we were a mess, right? Or I should say I was a mess, but it sounds like you were pretty much a mess too.
A mess. And listen, if it wasn't for my family, that like, I would be in a shelter, homeless, and my children would be in foster care.
Yeah.
They would. By the time my mom, like, there was a day that I wasn't picking up the phone, and her senses went off, and she came to my house, and it was freaking condemned. My children were, like, fending for themselves, and I was in the basement smoking my shit, and she said, that's enough. And she took the children. And the next thing I know, I have a summons in the mail about temporary custody going to her. And, you know, a few things happened in between, but this is the short version. And I was too high or too dope sick or both to show up. And all the while, it's poor me. They took my children. This, you know, it's them versus me. I would be dead in a shelter and my children would be in the system. I cannot make that clear enough.
Right. But
I
at
am
the time,
no different.
You can't see that at the time.
No, I'm just this victim that lost my kids. And
Right.
I'm trying my best. And my husband left me for 4 months. Of course, I got addicted to dope. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
I mean really just, however, it put me in the best position to get it right.
Yeah.
And
so that was the culminating event, the custody.
right. So they go out to the shore, right? My mom takes the kids, and I found a way to break into my house so we could steal some cash and stay there.
Okay.
All right. And this is not even in my mind. I mean, I do think somewhere in my life I had a moral compass.
Right. This
Doesn't even faze me as something like morally reprehensible. I'm like, let's go. Let's find some cash.
You're on the most addictive, people steal things, people break into places to get this stuff, you know?
Right. And we did.
Yeah.
And we got caught in the act when they came home. And they called the police, and there were warrants. This was my husband and I. And there were warrants. And I'd like to say that right then and there, and that until I had been 10 months sober, about almost a year, since this point, since I saw my kids, the last thing they saw me doing was running from my parents' house into the woods and hiding because the police were coming and they were, coming home and they saw us. And at this point, my mother didn't even know I had taken him back. Remember, I said my husband had left. They immediately noticed the cash was gone. Jewelry was gone. We had pawned. There was a gold diamond ring that my dad, who's deceased and I was very close to, had given my mom, and was kind of, maybe in my mind, I had said it was going to be mine anyway.
Right.
Got $200 for it. Not even. I think I got $99 for it or something. It had gold and diamonds. They ripped me off, I'm sure.
Of course they did.
But also in my head, I'm we're going to get $400. And I think it was less than 100, slightly less.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we took all that. And I'd like to say that was it. That was the last straw. I remember my daughter's face out the back of the car window when I was running to hide in the woods. But we went, we couldn't go to his mom's because now there was a warrant for burglary.
Yeah.
And this is when I knew, when my mom filed those charges against me, she was done. There would be no lawyer. There would be nothing. So we went and we found a, cash only sort of shady rental place. You didn't need insurance or anything like that.
Yeah.
Down in Virginia, and we got a car and we started making trips from DC to Baltimore, buying this stuff and selling a little and using until what always happens. And we used more than we could sell. And all of a sudden we are in the hole. We are dope sick. Mm-hmm. We have no roof over our heads because we can't afford another day at this motel.
Right,
it's $65 a night or something.
That's why they say never get high on your own supply.
Yeah. Well, who are we kidding? We weren't any kind of dealers. We were trying to, we needed to return this car. And I remember standing there outside the hotel, and I was so sick, and I just called my mom and I said, I'm done. And I meant it. It wasn't get me somewhere so I can get a Suboxone and feel better. It was I am done. I want my children back. I don't want to do this ever again. You couldn't get a brush through my hair. I had these big mats.
Oh, God.
My face was sunken. I remember trying to go back to my old friend alcohol when I was real sick and I couldn't hold it down. And my husband dropped me off at a 7-Eleven, and my mom picked me up and took me to the airport. She took away, I didn't have any cash. She gave me just enough cash, I think $12 to buy a snack, and stayed on the phone with me the whole time till I got there, and they picked me up and took me to Detox.
Down here or?
Down here.
Okay.
When I got to Detox.
It's a nice place.
It was very nice.
I know where you went.
It was very nice. When I got there, they said that because there was fentanyl in my system, they couldn't give me Subutex for 2 days. Oof. So I did go through it. And they gave me, benzos and sleeping pills and stuff like that.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get any of that.
Oh, dude, I was writhing and sweating, and the girl who was in my room was I can't be with her. Can you move
have you ever
me?
seen Dope Sick?
No.
Oh.
Yes, the show. Yeah, I was thinking of the other one with the
but
sexy
that's what
teenager.
people do. That's what withdrawals are. It's it's an out of body experience.
That was Euphoria. Don't put the thing in where I said sexy teenagers. Bleh.
Oh.
I was thinking of Euphoria. All right. Oh. I got a bad taste in my mouth from saying the words sexy teenagers. As soon as I said it, I was like, shit.
You guys are literally fine.
He's gonna be so mean and actually take clips of this and
if it's funny, just make it in good taste.
Yeah.
He's gonna ruin us.
We're done for.
Euphoria were the parties I went to.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Growing up. I don't think there was as much fentanyl and stuff.
Well, fentanyl's
pills.
relatively new, but
there was
heroin
oxy.
and shit's not, right?
So there wasn't heroin. It was all very much like suburban speedball, prescription medication, and drinking. And it looked like Euphoria. Literally Euphoria. So when I saw that show, I'm like, oh wow, Kevin.
Did that show trigger you?
No, it just captured my high school year.
I'm like afraid to watch it. I don't know why.
Oh, don't worry.
I know.
Fentanyl and opiates are like a whole different world.
Yes.
You know, it's not the same as prescription medication. Well, unless you're taking Percocet, right? Unless you're taking opiates. And it's not the same as other things like Adderall or benzos. Even though benzos are hard to detox from because you had to have seizures, fentanyl, I've seen it. People are sweating like sick, like literally like flu, cold, sick.
Yes.
Your body is like just having an outer body thing.
And you can't sleep. And when you do sleep for a couple minutes at a time, I'm just dreaming about my children and all the shit. And then I'm having an anxiety attack.
Right.
So I wrote everything down. I finally got Subutex 2 days later and I was like, I got to write this down. I don't ever want to forget that.
Wow, you really were in a good place then.
I was ready.
Ready.
This was not like any other time I'd tried to get sober.
Wow, that's awesome.
However, and I will say, I have no opinion on Matt.
Yes. I mean...
But I took Subutex for 6 days. Then I went to my residential treatment and I withdrew from that.
I know, I've heard it's very hard.
I craved my taper.
Yeah.
So I was grateful that there was no looking back. I went there without a prescription. Well, because I don't know that I could have taken it any more days and been able to bear the withdrawal.
Yeah.
Me personally.
Right.
I also know people whose lives it saved and take it every day under a doctor's care, and it's wonderful.
Again, I'm not here to judge how people recover.
So I just wanted to say that so it didn't come off as me. But for me, I think the way that unfolded was perfect because I got to feel the hardest part of it. I got the comfort. However, I will say they had 24-hour snacks there, and I was too sick to take advantage of it.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
Residential, it was a place where you had to do your own grocery shopping on a budget.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going, why didn't I eat more when I was in detox?
Oh, I brought all the snacks from Detox.
Did you really?
And when they opened my suitcase, they're like, "Oh, you have a sugar addiction too."
Oh, of course they did. Of course they did.
What do you? They took away. They put me on a sugar ban.
Took your snacks away.
I wasn't allowed to buy anything from the supermarket. They would check my list, and I was not allowed to buy anything with sugar. So I figured out what in the supermarket would show up differently on the receipt because I used to cater. And I would buy things that were secretly sweet, but it would say Publix B or something like that.
My God.
It wouldn't say what it was. And I mastered that, of course. But then,
of course.
And then I got caught for,
of course,
hiding granola bars and things in my room.
Well, you went through 5 years before I did. We went to the same place.
Yeah.
And that's how we know each other.
Yes.
And it was way stricter then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They would knock on my door at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and be like, intervention, check your drawers, check your everything.
Oh, no.
And I would hide candy in the pockets of my jackets and stuff in my closet so they couldn't find it. But I was like, you took away everything.
Yeah.
Give me back my sugar. You know what I mean?
I can't speak on that because I gained 60 pounds in 4 or 5 months. So I was a little underweight to start. So there's room for error there, but
I gained 90 pounds.
And you know what? I'm not even mad about it. I still like myself more than I did as a twig. And I'll get there.
You know what? 100%. And in sobriety, it's been really interesting for me to change the way I look at my body. Mm-hmm. I mean, now I've lost the weight I gained, but I was very uncomfortable in my body for 4 or 5 years, but I was still I'm better than before.
Right.
And I don't care that I have thighs and this and that. And we're lucky because now we're living in a time where there's more body acceptance and there's more, just not less criticism, even though it's still there. It's less. There's more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I feel like that changes over time.
And there was a point, and this happened in my Adderall days too, and my drinking. Drinking was my superpower, right? Until it wasn't.
Right.
I actually had what a doctor told me was a reverse tolerance. So I would start blacking out before I finished a 40-ounce malt liquor, but still.
Yeah.
And I was scared to go outside. I was scared of my own shadow.
This is in treatment or pre-treatment?
This is throughout the various chapters of my addiction. I always wound up at that place where I couldn't get a brush through my hair. That happened multiple times, and I couldn't go outside. I couldn't go to the store, nothing. Maybe I'd venture out at night to bum a cigarette if I was desperate enough.
Right.
My apartment was, or house, and later even the house with my children in it, was condemnable, you know? Because I couldn't dig myself out of whatever. And I think now housekeeping's really important to me because I don't want to be reminded of my old life, but it's also a balance. And I know we've talked about this a lot, because if I leave dishes in the sink or whatever, I have to be like, okay, I have to let my kids be kids without flipping out that they track dirt in the house. So there's like this balance that I'm finally getting to now. I can't get resentful at everybody for any little mess. But anyways, I'm like totally sidetracking.
I feel the same way though, because being in a messy home, or dirty home, I should say, makes me feel like I'm back in addiction.
Right.
So these days I'm very much like, my house has to be clean. Like, it's spotless, you see.
Yeah.
And though I have days where things accumulate, right? And you got to deal with it. But
Irini, I've been here with my kids, with our friends' kids, and they're like tracking in sand and spilling a Sprite. Remember my child spilled a Sprite?
Yeah.
And you were like, it's cool, whatever. And I'm like, I need to get to that place, because I was like, what'd you do?
Oh, well, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to kill everyone.
Okay, good. All right. I feel better now.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I made a good decision not having kids. I'm like, there's sand everywhere.
I'm glad I can be your birth
Sand
control.
is throwing, but they're not my kids to reprimand, number one. And number two, they have to have fun for 2 hours. I'm going to take the Lysol wipes. I'm going to take out the vacuum. It took me 10 minutes to clean up. I used to freak out that it would take me forever. And I timed it, and I was like, oh my God, I'm done. I'm ready for bed. And everything was clean and spotless, except for my dryer that had sand for days. But
And I thought to
now I
myself
vacuumed
later,
the whole
I'm so
thing.
glad all the sand came out in her dryer. It's not
Oh my God, I vacuumed everything. I got a hose and went in.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
Oh no, but it's me too.
But for those of you watching at home, she was very cool about it. My children think she's the coolest.
Oh, good.
So bring your kids over.
Yeah.
I love having them over because I don't have kids, and I love kids. Even though I don't want my own, I love being an auntie and a godmother, and I want to be involved as much as possible, because when I was using, I missed so much of my niece and nephew's life. Even though I was present in the early days, I was messed up but I was present. But in the later days, I never went to see them. I never sent birthday gifts. I don't think I do it now, but now they're older, But I wasn't a good aunt. So for me, this is like a living amends, to be there for my friends and be there for my friends' kids. And also, if I can share this, you're a single mom. So is another friend of ours, and I try to go and relieve you. Like, I try to go take a shower. I'll hang out with your kids. Like, go do something. Because for me, it's like pleasurable to do that.
Well, it's service.
Yeah.
It's like the most helpful kind of service for me right now.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
And we love you.
Oh, I love you too.
So, I mean, before I got sidetracked, I was going to say, I think I had the perfect, experience of detox, because I went through it and I got all the cushy stuff.
So after you withdrew and you got to treatment, tell me about your experience in treatment.
I was super on edge, because I had been to that boarding school where you were meant to tell on people and this and that. So I was like, oh, I can't make any friends, I can't break any rules, and I can't hear about anyone else breaking rules. And then little by slowly, I made friends.
Of course.
Some of whom are my best friends.
Right.
And I had fun, and I really did try and get through, but I wasn't fully honest. Right. I still missed my husband, for one.
You got honest with me halfway through.
Yes. So I met you and asked you to sponsor me because you said that you had been sleeping in a car and your skin was gray and you needed a blood transfusion. And is that okay that I said that?
Absolutely.
And I was like, holy shit, I need her to sponsor me. Like, that might be the only girl who had it worse than me. Because I was already like, my story's the worst.
Of course. We all feel that
You're
way.
23, you don't know.
Yeah,
I had
I did
that.
the same
Which,
thing.
by the way, now there's 20 to 25-year-olds and even younger probably that like school my ass.
Oh,
in
I have
recovery.
a lineup tomorrow of someone who got sober when they were 20. They're doing great. They do. Things are different now. I think
awesome. It's very cool.
I think being sober is cool, and I'm so proud of it. Like, whatever the stigma is that people have, like, that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I go sleep at night and I feel great.
I don't know if I'm fully there yet, but
Yeah.
Anyway, I was on this very, I still kept myself in the margin, and then I heard your story, and I was absolutely terrified of you. And we started doing the steps, and in treatment though, so it was like real easy in a way, because I wasn't out there where people were drinking and whatever. I was in treatment. So all I had to do was meet with you and regurgitate all the shit we were doing in groups all day anyway, right? And I got caught calling my soon-to-be ex-husband while I was in there. And this was so alarming and concerning to the treatment team and to my family, because he's actively using, and I'm claiming to be this like ready to move forward. And that was like probably I think I got pretty honest, and the most honest I'd ever been in my life till then. But this was like the one thing I was holding on to. And in my mind, we were still in a relationship, and I couldn't wait to talk to him. Yeah. So at that point, they had put on some real harsh consequences, and it was like, you're no longer looking for a job. We're no longer like thinking you're on track to get your children back. And I was devastated, and I called you, and you were like, all right, listen. And I remember you told me you were afraid I was mad at you, and I wasn't. I was scared of you, but I wasn't mad at you. And you were like, don't you go to the picnic tables and smoke cigarettes. You go sit in every group, you raise your hand, you do your work. Like, this is the amount of money that is being spent on your treatment every day. Make it count. Yeah. What the hell are you doing? You have children at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me do this. But I only had a couple weeks left, and actually, it might have been a couple days.
I mean, my biggest regret.
The paid through was coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And my biggest regret was not taking advantage of the work in the beginning, because then I have paid for it so much in these years.
Right.
But you know what? We're only ready when we're ready.
But that was it. That was the journey.
Yeah. Exactly.
And at that point, I didn't really have so much spirituality. We had started kind of introducing me to it, and we had talked about like the fact that I didn't grow up with religion, but I always was kind of a believer, because when I lost my dad, I never fully thought it was just over. So there was like a seed of hope and all this stuff. But now it's crystal clear. That was what was supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And let me tell you, for the first time in my life ever, I got over a man without there being another one to take his place.
That's amazing.
And I was single. I mean, technically married, but single. Mm-hmm. And I was not worried about what he was doing, who he was talking to. It was harder and took longer than getting off dope.
I know. I remember
maybe not booze, because I went through that for 20 years. But
I remember you'd come over and you were like, I sent him money.
Yes.
And I would get so upset.
He would beg me for money because he was still using, and I would do it because I still hadn't let go. And my good friend Jackie, shout out if she's watching this, up in Philly, told me, you have to tell Irini, like, you got to tell your sponsor. And I told you, and you go, I don't even know what to say to you. You have to call this girl because I can't even talk to you.
I don't remember that.
You were like, I'm appalled. And then later you were softer and were like,
Right.
I had to process that. I just can't believe it. You're like, he's buying fentanyl. What if he dies? What are you doing? You have children. I mean, it was the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was like $20 here and there, but it
really,
was what I was doing.
Yeah. And I really cared about you and wanted to see you succeed because I saw it in you. You know, sometimes you see people and you know they're just not ready yet, but you still work with them.
Right.
And hope that at least something sticks.
Right.
But then you work with people who you look at and you see some changes and you see some hope and you see they want it.
Right.
You know, and they're going to do, but we're going to mess up. We're going to F up. You know what I mean? We're human beings. Our habits don't change overnight. It's definitely something you have to.
But see, that was like the thing too. Like I was starting to get over him and be okay.
Yeah.
And then I still had this little thing where he still needed me a little bit. We were still connected because he needed $20 here and there.
Yeah.
And then finally, my friends made me tell you.
Yeah.
Like the one friend I told made me tell you.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that anymore. And I felt embarrassed and exposed. And then little by slowly, I started getting better at not freaking lying and just letting that nasty shit out there.
Yeah.
So around the time I did my 5th step with you, I think we crossed the threshold into friendship.
Yeah.
Because it was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna tell her everything.
Well, because I'm not there to judge, right? And honestly, I forget people's things. You know, I don't remember each detail of everyone's mess ups in life because that's not what I'm there for.
Right.
We're there to see a pattern. Right?
And to see a pattern and to look at me with a straight face and go, okay, you robbed your parents.
Yeah.
Okay, your children didn't know where you were and Cassie was changing her brother's diapers while you were in the basement smoking dope. Okay.
And you don't have to do that anymore.
Right. And I'm just like, I mean, those were the things I was going to take to the grave.
Yeah.
And it was women who started sharing about that shit that emboldened me to start sharing about it. And next thing I know, moms who are patients at the rehab now are calling me.
Isn't that great?
Yes. They're giving out my number.
Yeah.
What the hell?
I mean, that's what we do, service. That's what that's the hope, right? To if I helped you and then you helped 10 people and they helped 10 people and hopefully that's how this country will recover. We have a huge issue. Hundreds of thousands of people are addicted and don't think they can get off it and don't have hope. Right? So, this is the point of this.
Right.
To share these stories so people can say, okay, I'm not terrible. I'm not a bad human being. I messed up and I can change my life.
And I think, to that point too, we get very stuck in the all or nothing, black or white.
Yeah.
But if we're honest with ourselves, people we idolize, like in Hollywood or whatever, have done terrible things. And it doesn't mean it's just not everyone is all good or all bad. Look, I'm trying to eat right, okay?
Right.
And last night I had those little vanilla wafers with the cream in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, they're so light. I'll just eat half the box or whatever. And then I'm like, well, fuck it. I ruined the whole day. No, I didn't. I can still get up and do better tomorrow. Or had I had more time of the day, turned it around.
And we've talked about
that. That's
that.
unnatural to me.
Yeah.
I'd rather just go scorch the earth because I ruined my diet.
I always tell people, I'm like, you can restart your day at any time. Breathe, take a break, do a meditation, and just reset. So tell me now a little bit about kind of how you've been living in sobriety, how it's been to have your kids and...
So at 16 months sobriety, I had been right after treatment, I went to halfway for 6 months. And after that, I moved in with my closest friend from treatment. Shout out Katie, my girl, seeing her
She'll
later
be coming
tonight.
on. She'll be coming on.
She's going to be great. And we lived together for a year. And then after that, my kids are going to move down here and live with me.
Good.
And I will tell you that first year and a half was really fun. I was around human beings I didn't find insufferable. I was finally comfortable in my skin. I had been to a bar on 3 occasions for necessary reasons. Not
like
necessary.
a birthday party or something.
For a coworker, a going away thing, not just cause.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like drinking.
Isn't that amazing?
I had been home to visit my kids and they didn't hate me. Those are like 2 of the main reasons I believe in God, actually. And the third is that I'm alive.
Yeah.
There's like the 3 things that like I can't explain other than divine intervention.
Absolutely.
My children shouldn't have wanted me to come back.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the kids came down and it got really hard.
Yeah.
I got real resentful and real self-pitying. And I think like I called you a couple times and I said like, if I don't get it together, like I might drink, you know, and thank God I can call you. And one thing that like you made me do when I first got out was get phone lists.
Oh yeah.
Fucking call these women that I barely knew and text them.
But it's necessary.
But I forged these friendships and I did forge it. I pushed into it that I would rather have just crawled in a hole and died than do.
Yeah.
And some of them are my best friends. Some of them we fell off. But the point is when I got crazy, I had them. Just like you said. And now that's what I tell girls to do. Yeah. I'm like, it's god awful, but do it.
Oh, it's the worst.
But
they made me call.
And not just alumni from my rehab.
Right,
other people.
They made me call in rehab 5 different women a day, and a counselor would sit next to me while I had these phone lists for meetings and call these strangers.
Yeah.
But then when I was 3 or 4 years sober during COVID and I had a little bit of a breakdown, I sat in my car and I was like, I'm just gonna go have a tequila shot. And then I got on my phone and I just literally went down the list, called people I hadn't spoken to in 3 years. I didn't care. They all picked up. Some of them showed up and came over. I have chills.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the beauty of this.
Right.
You know, because maybe we're not best friends, but it is our duty
with the same disease
to show up for one another. And it makes me want to cry because it's so beautiful that people just will stop what they're doing, no matter what, and show up because they know that we would do. It's like a reciprocal relationship. And it's like unsaid, but it's said. You know what I mean? So it's so important to make friendships in sobriety with people who have more sobriety than you, with different people, so that you learn from them. You learn from their experience. You know that you don't have to feel guilty and shameful. We all did it, but we changed our lives, and we're different people. You know?
And to meet people from all different walks of life was really important to me too. And I remember I got this service commitment, and I brought a meeting to this like this place where it was just, they had like an outreach in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, and almost nobody spoke English. And next thing I know, I'm sponsoring girls with a Spanish version and an English version of the Big Book.
That is so cool.
I know.
That is so cool.
I know. And just all these like things are just coming together because I know people from here and I know people from there, and we are truly sisters in recovery, whether we like each other or not.
Absolutely. There are people that I don't love, but I respect.
Right.
And I will call them.
And then there's those few that I just actually let loose, have true, genuine fun without a drink.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible because I'm comfortable in my skin and I find you hilarious and we are just like belly laughing.
Yeah.
And this can exist without a drink. And that had to be the psychic change. It wasn't just stopping drinking. Because when I first got out of treatment, it was like around New Year's, and I went down Atlantic Avenue with a friend, and I was like uncomfortable as hell around all the people drinking, and I wanted to party with them.
In the beginning, it's tough.
So it wasn't just stopping drinking. It was changing and loving myself.
Yeah.
It was around the time also my life changed dramatically that like it was time for me to start like admitting some of my wrongs and making amends to mostly family, but employers and things like that. And that was the part that is still the hardest.
Yeah.
My sister-in-law is going to be here for Christmas, and I'm going to have to speak to her.
Yeah.
And it was easy because I was in Florida and no one else was. I was the most nervous to do my aunt because I lived with her.
Yeah.
And I put her daughter, my cousin, who I'm super close to, in danger. I stole from her. And I got arrested for assault while I was living with her down the street from her house.
How did the amends go?
With her, it was the easiest because she was so loving and wonderful. The one that I was really nervous about too, but it ended up being the toughest in like a good way, was my stepdad, because he actually like sat there and was like, do you understand that like I wanted to buy a gun after that robbery, and like my friends had to tell me not to because I was so angry at you.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
and I was just like, shit, you know?
But now you're making it right with him.
Yeah.
You know?
I love him. We actually I
mean, he's
get
been like a
along. I don't
father.
think there was a time, my family's close. There was a time they didn't even like hanging around me. Now I think we genuinely like have. So like, if we're not that way, like that amends to my aunt was like a really big turning point for me, because I respect her so much, and I was just so, I would rather hid from her for the rest of my life than face what I did to her. And if we're not loving and evolving, those don't mean anything.
Right. I know.
You know?
I know.
If I'm too rigid, I'll drink because I won't be able to take anything out of order.
Right.
You know?
You got to live in the gray zone.
And when I'm drinking, everything's out of order. Why can't I be in the gray zone? So that's what I'm working on today. To make a really, really, really long story that you asked me how I'm living today. I'm trying to live in the gray.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find balance. I'm
thinking.
trying to find harmony. Not just calmness and peacefulness, but balance. Being of service and having boundaries.
Yeah.
Because the all or nothing way I've always lived, I'll either be doing too much or no one will have heard from me.
And can I tell you, over the years, it's been, for me, the same, finding balance. Like when I first got sober, the first year I was like just trying to figure it out. Like I didn't know what to do. I was just like, what am I doing? I'm going to follow other people who've done it before me. I'm going to just follow the leader, right? And then, you know, I threw myself into service, and I'm like literally every single day at the treatment center I went to, picking up girls, going to dinner. And my therapist is like, you know, you can't do that every day. Like you also have to have your own life. But I needed those distractions.
Right.
You know?
Right, because we're addicts. We'll do that.
Yeah, and they say throw yourself into service, right? And then,
but you can't really serve if you're not.
Right. And then the third year I started
yourself.
like, okay, what does my self-care look like?
Right.
What does that look like today for me, so that I can be in good standing, so I can go and help others. And I still go, but now it's once or twice a week, and I have balance, and I have a partner, and I have work, and I do this, you know, and it's kind of like beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
You
Sometimes I'm
seem
tired.
really like chill lately.
Yeah, it's
like you've been
not
a
all the
blast.
time.
Well, I
Thank
don't
you.
know that you tell me these things, but I can't tell. We're like dancing on the beach, and my kids are messing up your house, and you're like, it's all good.
Because it is.
Yeah.
What's the worst that
No,
can
I love
happen?
it.
They
I
break
love it.
something, big deal.
Oh.
We figure it out. What's
And
the
like,
big deal?
so things have gotten so hard with juggling them. Sorry.
No, you're good.
That I will break my day up into 4 phases and be like, so phase 1 is like getting everyone ready and getting me to work them to school. And I will pray like, for these next 2 hours, don't let me get angry, or help me not to get angry and enjoy my children.
Yeah.
Then I'll get to work. Please help me not talk shit. And I don't want to complain. And sometimes I have to break
it's hard
work
in
up because it's the longest phase into phases. For the next 2 hours, please, I don't want to complain. And then I'll set an alarm and I'll reassess. And there have been days when I leave at the end, if I've managed to get through it, where I'll feel like exploding because it was that hard for me not to complain all day.
God,
but it's not
and
cool, man.
Then you blast your music and you go, and get it out.
Yeah. I go into, I work at a deli, and I'll go into the walk-in fridge because it's hot in there, and I swear God is in that fridge.
When I used to work in the restaurant business, we had freezer jackets because the freezer is a huge walk-in freezer, and you have to work in the freezer sometimes.
Right.
We had freezer, and I would just hide in the freezer sometimes, and the chef would be like, "Are you ready to come out? Like, it's time for service." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
The freezer, man. I'm telling you.
That's where
so
it's
I'll go
at.
in there, I'll sit on one of the crates, and I'll cool off, and I'll just be like picturing this purple light of God, and I'll try and breathe it in so that I can carry it out. And
I
it
love
works
that.
sometimes. Well, you were the one who helped me come up with it, because you have all these things you do, and I
Right.
kind of formulated my own thing, and I decided purple is it. And
Mine is
sometimes it
yellow.
works, and sometimes it just doesn't. But if I complain, okay, once it's like internalized self-pity, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing to cry about when I have a job and I'm making money. There's just not.
Yeah.
If I'm in a really good place, I can make it all funny.
But let
it's
me
all
tell
just
you,
humorous.
You know, I think that for me, and what I've noticed with some other people, a pattern is that we're hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves, and I always tell everyone I work with, I say, okay, take your inventory, see what you did wrong today, see what you can fix and be better at. But then at the end of that, ask yourself, what did I do right today?
Right.
Like, what did I do right today? And, you know, people say to me that's like the best thing, because if we don't look at the good at all, then we're only going to focus on the bad. We have to see our good too.
And I think at the end of the day, if you only focus on the bad, that's just an excuse to drink.
Exactly.
Eventually.
Well, exactly.
It's fuck it.
We grew up that way. Those were Euphoria were the parties I went to.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like growing up. I don't think there was as much fentanyl and stuff.
Well,
but there was
fentanyl's relatively new, but
there was Oxy.
heroin and shit's not, right?
So there wasn't heroin. It was all very much like suburban speedball, prescription medication, and drinking. And it looked like Euphoria, literally Euphoria. So when I saw that show, I'm like, oh wow, Kevin.
Did that show trigger you?
No, it just captured my high school year.
I'm like afraid to watch it. I don't know why.
Oh, don't worry.
I know.
So now you're living your best life. Is there anything that you would want to say to your 12-year-old self, or whatever age it is, like to your younger self, whatever age you think was that flip? Like, what would you say?
This is so hard. I would just shake myself. Like, it doesn't matter what he thinks. It doesn't matter what they think. You know, I tried to rebel and be this like interesting person, but really I just cared so much what everybody thought.
Meanwhile, everyone's thinking about themselves. Everyone's thinking about themselves. You know, and the people who are not thinking about themselves, honestly, is how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, my father said something to me when I was in high school, and it's one of the best things that he has great stuff, but like this was one of the best things. And he said, people are going to talk shit. There are people that do that no matter what. You could be your best self or your worst self. If they want to talk shit, they will find something to say.
Right.
They will make it up, or they will twist a story, or it's their perspective. Whatever it is, you got to do you. You do you. And honestly, like, if you did something wrong, you did something wrong. You got to accept it. And when you do something right, you do something right. And you just live with, okay, how can I get better? How can I move on?
Right. And that feelings don't have to be so scary.
No, feelings are not facts.
They don't have to be so scary. I would tell myself that too, if she would listen, which she wouldn't. And I would say, it's okay to be sad. You don't have to mask it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You don't have to destroy your life.
But it all got you where you are today. So in the end, that's how I feel. Like I did some crazy stuff and I wouldn't change it.
I think one of the best things about me now is that I'm a recovering addict.
Yeah.
I think
it's,
I don't have a lot of hobbies and things like that. This is like,
well, you have 2 kids and you're single mom.
Okay, and that's like that sounds like a horrible thing to say.
That's like 3 jobs.
I enjoy my life. Don't get me wrong. I'm okay with the fact that I'm not a mountain climber or a rollerblade
Oh,
or
God,
whatever.
I don't want to be.
Well,
I
okay,
rollerblade
it would be
around.
cool though.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
I'd like to rollerblade.
I like, and I don't advertise it too much because I still obviously have a lot of fear of people. Let me back up, sorry. But like, it is the most interesting thing about me. It is the coolest thing I've ever overcome. And I can brag about it because it wasn't me. It was me and it was God and it was all of you guys, especially you. And God gave you, put you in my life. So I'm not breaking any rules by putting too much power on a person.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry, but I love you so much, and God put you in my life, because the truth is that you helped me more than anything, and I love you so much.
I
and
love
I'm so
you.
happy you're here.
I can't believe I just did a video thing. I'm like, I don't even have a TikTok, so.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm so happy you came. Thank you. You made me tear up, and you know me. I'm not a
Very stoic.
crier, but
My pleasure to make you cry.
I love you so much, and I'm so happy you came. And I hope that Keri's story really brings hope to other women and other mothers, and to know that it's okay if you messed up, and to move on and move forward and change your life. I really think that that's the important message we heard, I love you. Thank you for
I love
coming.
you, Irini. Thank
Can
you
we
for
hug?
having me. Yes, God, yes. Oh,
Come
I
on.
wish I got up with more grace.
Yay, that's okay. I love you. Thank you for coming to Crosstalk. You're the
Yes,
best.
Crosstalk rocks.
Woo! Crosstalk rocks.
Subscribe.
They're all there.